Well, I'd like to bring in Naresh Arora, Director of Design Box, and somebody who's managed social media for the Congress, and he's joining us from Chandigarh. Thank you, Naresh, for being with us. And what would you say about, especially during elections? In fact, NDTV had a whole half-hour show only based on fake news during the election time. And what would you say about these regulations and how needed they are and how stringent they should be?
Well, Gargi, this has been a long time coming, and I had written an article almost a year back in which I had written that if these restrictions of some sorts do not come into place by the platforms themselves, their platforms will be facing an existential crisis. I beg to differ with your panelist who says that the platforms cannot be held accountable. If the platforms are earning revenues from those advertisements being run on the platforms which are used for content sharing, the platforms are equally responsible for monitoring of the content. And the last parliament elections, we clearly noticed that a lot of restrictions, a lot of filtrations had come in from platforms such as Facebook and Twitter vis-a-vis political advertisements and political content was concerned. I think that before government steps in, the government should rather sit down with the platforms and talk to them about their monitoring algorithms and mechanisms, because the onus at the end, even if the government does bring in some restrictions or some kind of regulations, the onus will still lie on the platforms to depute people to monitor content and to adhere to the guidelines which government will be laying. I don't see that the government's guidelines and the monitoring mechanisms or the guidelines that the platforms have laid for themselves are too much different. So the platforms have a major part to play in it. They are supposed to be held responsible for the content dissemination, because of course we have seen that there have been adverse outcomes vis-a-vis fake news and vis-a-vis the content which is not verified that is shared around. So the regulations need to be in place, but yes, should not be at the cost of the curtailing of free speech.
And this traceability, what would you say about traceability? This demand that you should be able to trace who posts what.
The traceability mechanisms should be there, as it is when a government agency tries to trace a phone call or an email. The traceability mechanisms should be there, but they are only supposed to be there in extreme cases of law and order situations, not vis-a-vis common conversations which happen with the intent of social networking based on which these all platforms had sprung up.